Hello and welcome back to the Hub on VitalMX, your one-stop shop for motocross news from around the world. And there's a wide array of information this week as a lot's been happening in America, MXGP. We even have a little bit of national news from Slovenia, making this a real international edition of the Hub on VitalMX. But let's start with maybe the biggest news piece of the week, and that is the fact that ClubMX has lost Muc-Off as a title sponsor. Muc-Off has been there since 2022, I believe, so this is significant, especially for an independent team like ClubMX. But Brandon Haas, the team owner, took to social media earlier this week.
Well, as they say, all good things must come to an end,
to confirm that the team will continue. They've done it on their own before, they'll do it again if needs be, but of course they are open to new sponsorship opportunities. And with the level of investment that has gone on at ClubMX recently, with Chad Reed coming on board, Daniel Blair as general manager, understandably they would quite like some additional sponsorship dollars. But time will tell on that front. They do of course have their 5 riders locked in for the 2026 SMX World Championship, so preparation will continue as per usual. In smaller team news in the SMX World Championship, the ISRT Kawasaki team has announced a rather random team lineup for the 2026 SMX World Championship. Headlined by Vince Freeze, of course that had been long rumoured. He will return to the SMX World Championship after a year or two of arena cross action. So he'll be back on Kawasaki machinery with that team. And then they've also announced Cornelius Tundel as a new addition. Of course, Tundel, familiar with many because of his MXGP experience, but also because of his wildcard outings at Southwick and Redbud this year. Tundel has a little bit of Supercross experience, but to see him on a team full-time for Monster Energy AMA Supercross is quite the surprise. So there is that. And then also they've added Noah Viney, which of course is most likely a paid ride. Viney is currently doing the AUSX series for Moto Concepts Racing, but that team doesn't do the Monster Energy AMA Supercross series anymore, so there isn't a pathway into the American stadiums with MCR anymore. Also, it's worth touching on quickly, late last week it was of course announced that Rockstar Energy Husqvarna Factory Racing will go racing with Malcolm Stewart, RJ Hampshire, Ryder Di Francesco, Casey Cochran and new addition Daxton Bennick. Of course, the fact that Cochran and Ryder D have moved on over does indicate the end of the Gas squad. We all know that to be true. Just a little weird that it's not been officially announced. Why wouldn't they make it clear that Gas isn't going racing in America? Slightly odd. In more news, American news that is, Lux Turner, who was leading the SX2 class in the Australian Supercross Championship, crashed at the AUSX Open in Melbourne over the weekend and therefore will not race for final round this weekend and has lost his championship lead. He ended up fracturing his right wrist in a couple of places and spraining his left wrist. So that will almost certainly impact his 2026 Monster Energy AMA Supercross campaign, especially because he rides for Bar X Yamaha and that team does not do East Coast, at least they haven't done in the past, so he will more than likely not be on the gate at Anaheim 1, which is a shame because some very predominant people in the industry had tipped Lux Turner to really surprise and break out in 2026, but alas, that now seems quite unlikely. And of course, it's worth touching on, everyone knows, Dylan Ferrandis and Justin Barsha at Troy D Designs Red Bull Ducati Factory Racing next year. Now jumping across to Europe, Maddie Racing has been announced as Honda's MX2 team in the FIM Motocross World Championship. Maddie Racing was of course Ducati this year, Fantic before that, Husqvarna before that, the predominant Italian team run by the very prolific Maddie family, have of course been around the block with manufacturers, but now they return to Honda with support from Honda Europe. This isn't a HRC deal, although there is some confusion there, because in the PR photo, Marco Maddi is wearing a HRC shirt, and Giacomo Garibaldi is shaking his hand, and Garibaldi is in the PR, but it's very clear that it's a Honda Europe deal. So there's going to be some confusion there, almost certainly. But remember that Honda HRC will run an MX2 rider in Valerio Lata, just one less than they did this year. So they are still present in the MX2 category. No word on who Maddie's riders will be just yet, although that should come out very, very soon. They're going to run one MX2 and an EMX 250, if memory serves me correctly. Speaking of Honda, and only for a short time longer, Tim Gajser was celebrated in Slovenia this week. Yes, Gajser, who is of course a major celebrity in the small country of Slovenia, was named the Slovenian Motorsport Athlete of the Year. But even more impressive, he was also listed in Slovenian Forbes 30 under 30 list. Which I know it's Slovenia, it's a fairly small market, but to see a motocross rider in Forbes and in the 30 under 30 list, I think that is quite something to celebrate. So good job to Tim Gajser for putting the sport under the spotlight in his home nation. That's of course a perk of MXGP. You touch so many different markets, even the small little pockets of Eastern Europe. Adam Sterry will return to Chambers Racing KTM next year. They confirmed their team lineup, which is mostly unchanged from the year before. There was some rumours that they wouldn't be on KTMs, but that has proven to be false, and they are going racing with KTM. And I believe that is about it for what's happened this week. Again, a bit of a random week, but what's coming up is quite exciting because we have another double header this weekend with the final round of the Australian Supercross Championship held in Adelaide alongside the V8 Supercars event, and by all accounts that is an event to go to. I had an amazing experience in Melbourne over the weekend, and to be honest with you, although I'm on my way to the Gold Coast for WSX, there is a large part of me that wishes I was going to Adelaide just to see that event sit alongside V8 Supercars. It really does sound quite amazing, and of course champions will be crowned there. You have Dean Wilson on the edge of the SX1 crown, and then Ryder Kingsford is leading the SX2 series now from Alex Larwood, I believe. I believe it comes down to those two now that Lux Turner is sidelined. Larwood and Kingsford, two very impressive talents that probably deserve an American shot here shortly. And then on the Gold Coast, a little way away, I think it's 1,000 miles by air, Hayden Deegan, Eli Tomac, Cooper Webb, Ken Roxon, and a few others will tackle the third round of the FIM World Supercross Championship. Yes, we're hitting the halfway point in WSX, and what a season it's been. So many memories from this long, sprawled out calendar around the world. But this is WSX's crowning event, let's say. It's the one with the best lineup, and after this the lineup will dip significantly because there will be essentially no wildcards at the remaining two rounds. So this is the one to watch. Of course, will Hayden Deegan have raced, would Hayden Deegan have improved on the 450 since Argentina? What's Eli Tomac done on the KTM since Vancouver? Cooper Webb will race this series for the first time this year. What's he got in his back pocket? There's a lot to watch on the Gold Coast, and we will be there, so stay tuned to this channel for plenty of news and updates from the event, the third round of the FIM World Supercross Championship. But that's all on this episode of The Hub. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you next week.